No! Is that Black Krrsantan?
Hey everyone, today we have Krrsantan from the Black series. I can't mention Black Krrsantan without seeing that clip in my head, so I just had to share it with you guys. Go check out her YouTube channel. This is finally showing up in Canada, so I was able to get this a little bit early, but it's nice to see a properly retooled BK in the Black series. On the side of the box here, we can see that he is 6.9 inches tall. We will of course take a look at some size comparisons at the end of this video. Let's go ahead and get this opened up. Being sure to appreciate the plastic-free packaging experience for one of the last times. Wow, this gun actually really surprised me. This feels almost like it's from an SH Figuarts figure. It feels like a harder plastic. It's definitely got a little bit of give compared to SH Figuarts, but this feels a little bit sturdier than Black Series, and it also just like has that really nice gradient paint job on the nozzle. Really impressed with that. Let's go ahead and get this big beefy boy opened up. Okay, first impressions, I really do like the sculpt. I think he looks as bulky as he should, and there is just a lot of beautiful sculpted detail here. I'm pretty impressed with the amount of paintwork. We have a little bit of a sloppy dry brushing on the front, and then on the back we actually have like all of that painted detail on the braids. They even did like the little brown on the bandolier. We've got some wash on his little pouch here. All of these things kind of surprised me, especially for being on the back of the figure. There's even a little bit of a wash on the shoulder pads to make them look a little bit dirty. A lot more paint than I'm used to seeing on Black Series figures these days. The other thing that I'm noticing is that it doesn't seem to be a lot of articulation. He's a little bit difficult to move. Just the positioning of the shoulder pads, just kind of the nature of this character. Oh, some butterfly joints in there. I guess that's to be expected with newer Black Series. But if you have any of the Chewbacca figures, you kind of know the limitations that figure has. This one has a little bit better articulation at the elbow, still leaves a little bit to be desired, and then decent articulation at the knees. And then these do have the newer thigh joint here, where instead of having a thigh swivel, you get that nice little wide cut in the leg just to give you a lot of articulation there. Works really nicely. Let's see how just an initial gun in the hand test goes. It's almost like he can't fit all four of his fingers there. I guess they do fit. The problem here is that the stock of the gun on the back is just kind of preventing it from fitting into his elbow in that way. This is the issue with a character like this that is bulky, but it's because it's fur, is that, you know, obviously the gun would just push his fur out of the way. With plastic, that's not going to be an option. So this is a little bit tricky here. After a few minutes of messing around, I was able to get him into the pose that we see on the box. He's holding the gun a little bit lower, but overall, I mean, this looks nice. He's such an action-focused character, and it's just a bummer that I guess the nature of this sculpt, we're not really going to be able to get a lot of really fun articulation here. I even had to reference the photos, the promo photos, just to see if I was missing something. And sure enough, if you really look, there's not a lot of articulation going on here. We've got some fisticuffs photos. It would be nice if you had alternate hands that could be in fist positions. I think that would actually make for a lot more fun poses. But his hands are curled, and you know, you can get a bit of a fist pose. But then even if you try to do that, because of the shoulder pads, you're only able to get his arms up so far, and then it kind of pushes the shoulder pads into the head sculpt, and then that kind of limits articulation on the head, which if you have the Chewbacca figure, you kind of know like just the nature of these Wookiee sculpts. The good news with the legs though is that they do work really nicely, and he is pretty sturdy, so you can kind of bring in a little bit more of that drama into the legs that you can't really get in the arms. And also he has that really nice head sculpt with the open mouth, so he does have sort of more of an action focused face, which I think adds a lot to the dynamism of the figure. In this pose here with his hands back, it does kind of give the impression that these are fists, even though the hands are open. I tried for a few minutes to try to get him into like an aiming down the sides pose, and it's just, I mean, I guess from certain angles it might look okay, like if you're just doing some figure photography, but you know, you don't want to block that face on your shelf. He also has a little hole on his back here that you can fit the gun into. The gun has this tiny little peg on it, and it does fit snugly into place. So it is nice just to add, kind of like when you can have a character just have their weapon on their back like that, just to add a little bit more to the figure. So if you got him in that kind of like fighting stance, you can see the gun. Let's get into the size comparisons here. It's really tricky to kind of understand the scale here. If you bring in Chewbacca and Malgus, it's weird because like I don't remember this Chewbacca figure being this big. Like when you open Darth Malgus, you're like, holy cow, this is a huge figure, and yet look how small he is compared to Chewbacca, and you can see that Krrsantan is a lot closer to Malgus. So if you do have that Malgus, you kind of understand how big that can feel, even though in photos here, like Krrsantan looks so tiny compared to Chewbacca. And now like comparing him to another figure that felt really big when you take it out of the package is the Dark Trooper, and you can see that Krrsantan definitely dwarfs him. But of course, you're not going to display him with Malgus and a Dark Trooper. You're going to display him with Fennec and Boba, and you can see in comparison here sure how great this looks. This is a custom paint job on Fennec by Frederick's Figures, and then a Fett clone head on the Boba body. But my display Boba is actually the Figuarts Book of Boba Fett one, which is a little bit smaller, and then this is the same head. And then I 3D printed the Kama in resin, so it is a nice hard plastic instead of the soft goods that were just flying all over the place and just looked a little bit weird on Boba, and I think this just looks a lot more correct. You can see a little bit better in the shot here that just like the paint job on Krrsantan leaves a little bit to be desired. The dry brushing is a little bit sloppy, and then the face print, especially the eyes, a little bit odd, and just the beard is a little too intense. He also is missing his scar on his forehead. This is like my new media display, all the Disney Plus stuff, Mando, Book of Boba Fett, Kenobi, etc. And I have this custom Krrsantan where I actually took a Chewbacca figure and sculpted on top of it and put some 3D printed parts. He's a little larger than the one that we have now, but let's see what the new Krrsantan looks like on the shelf. With these hexagon stands, you can kind of stagger the height of figures here, so I usually put shorter or taller figures on the shorter stand, although in this case he's looking a little bit too small now, so I'm actually going to switch out 88, put Krrsantan on the taller stand here, and then put 88 back in there where we don't need to see him as much. I think Krrsantan looks a lot more imposing here and just kind of more of a centerpiece on this shelf. He is kind of right smack in the middle, so it kind of works. I'm really interested to hear what you guys think, so leave a comment below. Let me know if this Krrsantan lives up to your expectations, since this figure has been just like on the way for so long. If you have any questions about any figures you see here, you can leave a comment below or just watch my collection tour video, but there's a lot of new stuff in here that I haven't gotten to yet in that collection tour. Here are some other videos from my channel that you might enjoy. Be good to your inner child, and I'll see you next time.